Hey, good evening. Welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, we had quite an eventful day today, and talking to Beth last night, we decided that she should really start taking her driving lessons seriously, which has proved to be something of a challenge. If you've watched Beth's driving lesson video today, but I'll let you draw your own conclusions from that, and go on to saying that I probably will, as a backup, teach Taliklik to be able to drive as well. We had thought that the little red would probably go to at least being used by Rado, and he would have to be taught how to drive. I think the plan there was that Rado is extremely shy, very reserved, especially around me as a foreigner, and because of his stereotypical nosebleed, which is a Filipino's speciality, that they think that their English is so bad that they'll be embarrassed if they try to speak it to a foreigner. Well, anyway, what Beth had tentatively decided was that maybe Timio would teach him to drive because they'd have the common language. It will be an advantage to have him at least drive the red, and then when he's proficient at driving that, maybe I'll let him have a go at driving the blue. The Raptor is another thing altogether, because it is actually a difficult vehicle to drive if you are not an experienced driver. It's high. It's on huge wheels. It is wider than a normal Ranger, so it's really a little bit wider than I had envisioned when we designed the bridge. And so the bridge has got a turn in it. As soon as you get to the end of the bridge coming up to the house, there's a turn, and it's quite difficult to negotiate the Raptor onto that. There's literally only inches in it, and as you can't see you can't see where the wheels are, it's quite difficult. So we won't talk about the Raptor for now, but I think it would be advisable that there's another driver in the house or close. Okay, so the challenge is in getting Beth to understand, what can I say, to understand that the severity of being handed the responsibility of a vehicle. She can't seem to get herself focused down enough, and doesn't retain. It's one of those things that she is brilliant at doing what she does, which is editing and handling money. So she has the mind of an accountant when it comes to that, can keep all kinds of different project funding separate from each other, so that we never ever there is a phrase for it, and it's called overtrading or something like that, where if one fund starts to run low, you use the money from another fund, and that's not okay, because I never wanted to work like that. I worked as a contractor in the UK, and I worked as a contractor, albeit furniture maker, carpenter in California, never mix up the money from one project to another is a very good way to go about business. So anyway, we will have to do that, but I'm thinking that as is becoming so obvious now, that it looks like we are heading into a much longer lockdown, or at minimum quarantine. We went into town today because we must have load, otherwise we can't do our videos. So we have the passes to be able to do that. So we go in as a retiree at my age. I don't get out of the truck. Okay, so I lessen the risk of me catching anything by staying in the truck. So I get in the truck here, and I get out when we get back. And Beth pops into the store to get her whatever it is that she needs, her load, and she does that, and we do that very quickly, and we don't spend any extra time. So that's what was happening today, and we went down very, very quiet. But then we realized, we took it that it was all because of the coronavirus, and this is a kind of the trap that we're all going into. We heard today that that right now, if anybody is even associated in a place where the virus is known to be present, if anybody dies, they're down on the list as dying from the coronavirus, and which is not true in many cases. So we're looking at keeping as close to home as we possibly can, and if this continues to go on and goes on into a few months, then we'll have to look at another way to get our paperwork sorted out so that we can actually start to help. That would be a big thing for us at the moment, because we're the same as anybody else. Even though we are a registered charity, we're really the same as anybody else, because we can't afford to finance everything ourselves. So we need to have all of the permits all in place, and that's what we would be looking at getting done right now. So what else can anybody do to survive the intense, probably intense boredom of being on lockdown? Well, actually, it's really not that bad for us, you know, because apart from cleaning the Raptor every day, just so that if it's got dust on it, which it gets, the kids don't come along and start drawing, you know, and scratching the paintwork. So I keep it very clean, probably the cleanest on the planet, I would think. So apart from that, I'd made up my mind that that I was going to take up guitar. For many years I've always owned a beautiful guitar, and the first thing I did when I came to Cebu, or to Bohol, I went back to Cebu and bought a really nice guitar. Of course, it's just been sitting there, and the strings are rusty now, so it needs new strings, which, now that I have the time to be able to put in on it, I don't have the strings. Isn't it catch-22 every time? So someone has very kindly offered to send me a set of strings, because they can do that easily, and I just can't get them. There is, it's almost a funny story. There's one music shop underneath Alturas, and on the door, it's a tiny little shop. On the door it says, "We are open. Text this number and we will come to the store." So you got this tiny little shop with guitars and keyboards in there and a few other things, and there's nobody there. So my thought was that maybe I could get the phone number that's on there. So, but well, we might have to wait for that, and then trying to get someone to come in just for a pair of just for a set of strings will probably be impossible. But anyway, we'll see what happens on that. My impulse buy of a trombone, slide trombone, it didn't go anywhere. Unfortunately, it's a cheap. It was very cheap. It was only about 7,000 or 8,000 pesos. Well, can't really expect the earth for that, can you? And as a pro musician in the UK and working as a musician even in Florida, I had a really beautiful trombone. A professional doesn't have a cheap instrument. That's how they earn their living, and so they make sure that they have the best possible instrument that they can afford. And I had a beautiful King 2B, which is a King 2B is the instrument that J.J. Johnson, the legendary trombone player, American trombone player, and if it was good enough for him, it certainly would be good enough for me. So that's what I had. But this time I thought maybe I could make this cheap trombone work. I brought it home, I cleaned it, I put it back in the case, I tootled a couple of notes on it, was not happy, put it back in the case, and that's where it's stayed ever since. So we'll see what happens on that. The other thing that I'd intended to do, for a long time now I've been talking about the dilemma that any expat has when they come here. Any foreigner has this dilemma. If he comes to, let's take it that it's Bohol, we're here in Bohol. If he comes to Bohol, he has the choice of several languages that he should learn or could learn. The main one being Visayan or Tagalog. They're the two main choices. Now, you would learn Visayan if you want to be able to understand what everybody is talking about around the dinner table, okay? What your family, your new extended family are talking about, they're talking in Visayan. Now, if you want to be able to take part and not miss out on all of that laughter and joking and interacting that everybody's doing to your exclusion, then it's Visayan. But then if you want to be able to watch anything on television, any even an American movie that's been dubbed will be dubbed in Tagalog. So which should it be? What's your choice going to be? Well, I've decided that with Taliklik at home, no school of course, then maybe this could be a win-win situation, and she and I can share languages. I can help her with her English, which will be of great benefit to her, and she can help me with Visayan. So that's what we've arranged. We were going to have a lesson today, a mutual lesson, and it didn't materialize. Other stuff happened. We went into Taliban, we came back, we crashed into the hill, and other little inconsequential things. Okay, so we never got round to it today. So that's what I'm thinking. Visayan for me. So thanks for listening. Hope you're all doing good in lockdown, or however locked down you are, or quarantined. We're actually on quarantine, and and it's not that bad, because there's so much land around us that we're not imprisoned in a house. But I know that there are various people that write to me, and they really can't really go out of the house, and that must be, wow, that must be a bummer. Okay, thanks for looking. Bye for now.